just a touch away. Monday to Friday at 12:30 p.m. only on Bloomberg Quint.
Welcome back. You're still watching Countdown with us. Half an hour to go for markets to close, and Nifty is sitting with cuts of about 60 points right now. Remember, this is a truncated week, tomorrow being a market holiday. 12,028 is the level where Nifty is currently trading. Nifty Bank is down almost 33 points in trade. Some bit of outperformance definitely seen when you look at the broader markets, but it's only small cap and mid cap index which are marginally trading in the positive territory. But if you were to look at the larger picture, the advanced decline, which gives you a better perspective when it comes to the entire listed universe and National Stock Exchange, it's clearly telling you it is in favor of the declines right now as we speak. But in terms of sectors, Nifty IT has been a laggard right from the word go. In the morning, the pharma index has seen cuts of about 1% and slight bit of outperformance seen from something like PSU banking index. But let me tell you, it's off almost 2% from the day's high. At one point of time when we started the trading action, Nifty PSU banking index went up to about trading with gains of about 2%. From thereabouts, there is some selling pressure which has come off from there. Individual stocks, we did talk about V-Guard, but there are some incremental gains which has come in this stocks in the last 10 to 15 minutes of trade. V-Guard is currently almost at day's high, sitting with gains of about 5%. Manappuram Finance we already highlighted. United Spirits is up 3% in trade, and a couple of your PSU banking stocks are still seeing gains. OBC is up 3%. Syndicate is also seeing gains of about 2%. And the top F&O gainer right now is IDBI, which is sitting with gains of about 7 to 7.5%. So a lot of stocks moving around, but let's also tell you which are the Fab 4 stocks for the day which feature in Mishika Parikh's list. Let's go across to her and find out. Hi Mishika, good afternoon.
Hi Navneet. So the first stock on our list of Fab 4 today is GE Power, which is up almost 4% as the company gets awarded a contract by NTPC joint venture worth 738 crore rupees for engineering work with a full turnkey basis. The second stock on our list is United Spirits, which is up almost 3% as the management sounds positive on India and reiterates its medium-term double-digit growth. The third stock on our list today is Manappuram Finance, which is up 3%. It's trading at all-time highs, and the stock is up 50% already this year so far. The trading volumes are triple its 20-day average. And the last stock on our list today is Deepak Nitrite, which is at its 52-week high, and the RSI for the stock is above 70, which means that the stock's being overbought. Back to you, Navneet.
Thanks for that, Mishika. So those are your Fab 4 stocks of the day. I just want to quickly get a technical check going on V-Guard, which has seen some incremental gains in the last 10 to 15 minutes of trade. Amar, on the charts, 5% or 3.7 now. Actually, it's fallen off from the highs that we've seen. Would this warrant any sort of trade on the upside?
Yeah, looking at V-Guard, I would say definitely any pullback can be used as a buying opportunity, because if you look at this particular stock, somewhere around 225 to 30 earlier, which was the top in April, that has taken out and it's currently trading around 243, 44 levels. So I would say that any pullback in this stock towards 235 odd levels can be used as a buying opportunity. So anywhere between 235 238 can be used as a buying opportunity with a stop loss below 230 and a target of 255 on the upside.
Avinash, you track this space as well. I mean, V-Guard, any thoughts before we let you go?
I think a large part of their product sales actually come after the monsoons. So I think clearly there could be a little slowdown in the coming quarter. Our sense is that a large part of their business also comes from the rural pockets nearer. So I think clearly maybe the coming quarter may be a little challenging quarter for them. But otherwise, I would believe that they have done remarkably well last year, and hopefully the kind of management commentary the management has given, I would believe that double-digit growth could comfortably come in. Hopefully, monsoons also turns out to be better.
Okay, Avinash, take a moment to thank you for joining in today, giving us your advice. And rights is something that stood out in this conversation. It is one of Avinash Gorakshakar's top investment ideas. Let's get in Rahul Mohinder on the show, and in post that we'll also get touch base with Yogesh Mehta. But firstly, Rahul, good afternoon. Thanks for joining in. What's the sense on the index? Is this a pause which worries you, and would you use this as a chance to accumulate some positions on the index, or not quite?
Good afternoon, Neeraj. I think even at this point, the Nifty continues to stay fairly positive. Next resistance or target would be around 12,160. And I think you still have very firm support around that 12,000 marker. So unless we really break that meaningfully, let's not even reassess the short-term trend. So I think things are fairly intact. Today is just a breather. I won't even call this a very sharp correction of any sorts. Of course, if you look at the index heavyweights, within those stocks, I think the only one which kind of worries me in the top 5 or 10 heavyweight stocks on the Nifty is ITC. But if I look at the HDFCs and the HDFC Bank, Reliance, those heavyweights still look nice and solid. So even on the Bank Nifty, I'd extend my target to about 32,100, keeping a support of 31,200 in mind.
Okay, and with that view in mind, Rahul, and we'll have an extended chat on this, but just to get off the bat, stocks that you're recommending today?
Again, these are not going to be short-term trades, but Edelweiss is something that's caught our attention the last few trading days. We've seen it break out. Somewhere between 220 to 225 is our target on that. So even on a day like today, I would look at buying it, 197 being a stop loss. Another one which is breaking out obviously seems to be Coal India, and a lot of key resistance is being taken out after a long time. Again, this could be more of a shorter term trade. We're looking at 275 as a target to come in on Coal India. 255 is the stop loss I trade in with.
Okay, Navneet was talking about V-Guard as having done well. I just looked at Mass Financial Services, and just the intraday of Mass Financial should come up before we go to Yogesh Mehta. And look, okay, no, somehow the stock was very, very active. It's just gone off the boil a little bit, but otherwise reasonably okay in trade. Is amongst the better performing stocks in the recent past. Yogesh Mehta of Motilal Oswal Johnson with his thoughts. Yogesh, good having you. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining in. What was the top conversation throughout the day? Which is the stock, which is the theme that has been the most advised in the dealing room today?
Good afternoon, Neeraj. Pleasure being again here.
Thank you.
Overall, in the morning meeting and for the discussion for the trades category today was one of those was a company, not the sector, because of the United Spirits had their analyst meet. So that was the main discussion thread here, because we believe that in FMCG space here, this is the company which was a laggard for last 2 years, and the growth was very tepid. And this time on FY19 operating leverage, due to that they have been able to grow with at least mid-teen margins, mid-teen growth of margin, and on a higher single digit with the sales. But ongoing, the roadmap is a little more visible with more ease of doing business, so that United Spirits was there because that is one of our top pick into this space, and that was the main discussion. Another one was the cement sector, where after April and May price rise, one more round of rise was there in the month of June, but in the southern region there was a cut. So these are the two discussion thread today for the clients to update them for their portfolios.
Yogesh, you mentioned about the cement pack. Yep, there were reports indicating that there have been price correction in the southern region. A lot of stocks, because of that, have come under pressure. India Cements is down 5%. You've got ACC, which has pan-India presence, of course, exposure to a southern region. I don't know if these stocks are reacting to that. Shree Cement, which largely is a north player, has also seen some bit of correction. This is a theme largely which has emerged as a consensus buy post the fourth quarter results. At these dips, which are the stocks which look the most attractive now?
Navneet, for this cement sector space on the large cap side, yes, definitely Ultratech, which has got the largest capacity and pan India presence, so that has the most advantage one. And the new, even the second continuation of the second term for this government will have more focused on infrastructure development, the rural development, agriculture development, wherein rural and infra focus would have more cement demand pickup maybe there, and we may see a volume growth of at least 8 to 10, between 8 to 11 percentage point for this financial year. So their ACC is one of our topics. However, the capacity utilization is little lesser than the others. But Shree Cement, of course, with the high demand is there, and Ultratech on the pan India presence with the largest capacity. So these are the three cement companies which are looking very positive over next 1.5 years.
Okay, that's the thought process on the cement pack. I'm just looking at a couple of other stocks which have just moved around in the last few minutes of trade. You've got V2 Retail, not in the last few minutes, but this stock has been trading with good amount of gains. It's up about 6 to 7%. Citi had a report on Viratech Engineering this morning, and the stock's seen some correction. Just looking at the data, I think the stock's off 50% from its IPO pricing of nearly 967. Look at the stock, it's at day's low now, down about 4%. Yogesh, coming on the auto ang, we did receive the sales number for the month of May, not encouraging at all, but the stocks were actually up and about in yesterday's trade. Largely can be a function because the entire market was up, but what do you do with the auto pack now?
No need for Autopack, though the numbers were again lesser than the expectation again, but the stock price are not showing any kind of a reaction in that context. But still would like to avoid auto space as of now, because we believe that these numbers may continue for a while, one or 2 months more, and then would be again to relook at. So advisable would be to relook at it as an investment theme or the trading theme on the long side, especially because this time the numbers are showing that in the two-wheeler space we think that Bajaj Auto and the TVS Motor will grow by 7% and 10% respectively for at least FY20, the whole financial year on the 12-month basis. But overall, on the margin side, there is no much of an improvement visible. So even if they will be able to grow in terms of absolute number sales, the margin will not be that good for these companies, and hence the profitability will not be improved. So on the valuation front, right now, they seems to be very attractive, around 17 times, 17.5 times for the next financial year. But if there is no growth, let's say 6 and 7% growth, then these are not the valuation where one should be. It should look as a attractive investment opportunity. So for a while, we will see for the monsoon development once it starts. So June and July month, these are the two to be watch out for, at least if the sales numbers are in track as per the traction which we are projection right now. Then and then only. Otherwise, at present, even if the price has moved up in the short term, we are not so much worried.
Okay. By the way, today the cooling solution companies seem to be the ones which are doing really well for themselves. Whirlpool too is up and about in the session today. Havells we already spoke about, has some division like that, but essentially anything related to cooling solutions. Maybe Voltas and Symphony aren't doing that. Blue Star marginally higher, but all of these stocks have been in focus the last few days. Voltas too marginally in the green. Okay, before we take our conversation further with all our experts, and we'll get in Amar Singh's view on these stocks too, but it's a good time to get in both Darshan and Yatin in for getting a sense of what dealing rooms are recommending in the session today. Good afternoon, both of you. Darshan, back from a holiday. Yeah. What are your dealing room sources telling you?
Yeah, so cautious tone still there, despite the Nifty hitting an all-time high in trade on Monday. There seems to be a little bit of caution. DLF started very strong today. The entire index was up. All the stocks in the index was doing well. One of the large domestic brokerage is actively pushing real estate stocks, especially DLF, to its client. It did well in the morning, has managed to cool off, but there is some bit of buying that's happening in the real estate space. BHEL for the past few days has been doing well. There is a buzz of a potential corporate announcement that could come in. That's something that we are watching out for. Even BHEL started strong. It was up over 1.5% in morning trade, has managed to cool off since the market has actually come off. And one stock in which some of the HNIs have actively started accumulating for the past few days is JMC Projects. Decent volumes, almost 75,000 shares for a counter which is not the most liquid. So there is accumulation that's happening at lower levels, and that's something that dealers are talking about. But Yatin, what are you hearing?
Darshan Havels, we have been talking about this stock for the past couple of days. The dealers do indicate that domestic funds are still buyers as far as this stock is concerned, 1.5% up on that one, almost 18.5 lakh shares traded on Havels in the cash market. Vedanta, that is one stock which is quite active in the future and option segment. Also, good open interest addition is seen for the trade today. Dealers, on the basis of F&O trends, are recommending a buy today, sell tomorrow kind of a strategy as far as this metal name goes. And finally, Garden Reach Shipbuilders. This is one stock in the PSU space, has been doing well since the IPO, but dealers, are finding it quite attractive at current levels, good dividend yield, and more importantly, day after tomorrow, they have an analyst meet in which they will spell out some growth strategy moving forward. So ahead of that, stock quite active, 2.5% up for that one, almost 4.5 lakh shares traded on this one.
Well, thanks a lot for that. We will watch out for some of these names. Since we were talking about the cooling solutions company, Amar Singh, maybe we spoke about these stocks earlier, but Havels and Whirlpool, two names which are doing well today.
Yeah, looking at Havels India, what we see is that the stock continues to trade extremely firm, and earlier also I had spoken that the recent high which it had made of 783, it's trading very close to that. Excuse me. So taking out the 780-85 zone is going to be important for it, but the way technically it's looking on the charts, it seems quite probable. So if that level is taken out, then the stock can rally towards 815, 820 levels. And the stock then has a very strong support coming at around 760 odd levels.
Okay. Well, watch out for some of these names. I think at 800 odd rupees, Havels becomes that 50,000 crore market cap company as well. Yeah, nice numbers. But I was talking about Mass Financial Services. It is at 601, 12.4% or thereabouts. Okay, 10.5, it's just come off a little bit, but quite remarkable the move that's happened in this one in the session today. Rahul, Mohinder, I don't know if you track Mass Financial individually, but that one or a lot of these other financial names have been in focus today, isn't it? ICICI Lombard General Insurance trading at life highs. A lot of mid-sized PSU banks are trading very, very well in the session today ahead of the policy. Any of these charts that look interesting to you?
In fact, I was looking at Mass Financial just yesterday, and the way I kind of look at it is, even from here, despite the huge move that we've seen, I still think there's a good opportunity here. We should be probably moving to about 660 to 670. That's the kind of target I'd peg on a stock like Mass Financial. Of course, one has to realize that you've seen a very big move today, which creates the bit of that risk is to reward ratio derailment, which means if I get in now, my reasonable stop I need to be working with is only close to about 550, 555. So, the risk reward is the only thing that worries me. But all in all, I think to answer your question, yes, I mean, that this whole space is suddenly looking interesting, particularly with the kind of volumes that were coming in. One of the other names that I took within the finance space was Edelweiss before this. Here too, if you look at the volumes that happened over the last week, standout stuff. So I think there's a lot which is going to happen in this space. So definitely we should keep this up on the radar.
Okay, that's Edelweiss, which is down about 1 to 2%. I also want to highlight IIFL Financial, if we can pull up that stock. It was IIFL Holding. It demerged, and since the time it's demerged, in the last 3 sessions, it's been 3 days of demerger. And the listed entities now, the NBFC business, the wealth and the securities business will be listing at a later stage. But since last 3 sessions, since the time demerger has taken place, the stock has been locked in lower circuit with cuts of about 5%. The other one, by the way, which has gone up is Walk Hard. The stock's now sitting with gains of about 2 to 2.5%, and the buying has come in last just, I think, 10 to 15 minutes of trade, sitting at levels of 407. Amar, what do you make of the move of 2%, which has just come in last few minutes of trade and Walk Hard? Would you take a bet here?
Yeah, looking at Walk Hard on the daily charts clearly shows that there is bullish divergence on the charts, and also the recent high which it had made of 413 on 28th May. So that should act as an immediate level of resistance, but even on the weekly charts, it has been showing signs of consolidation, and it seems that the worst is over, and the stock, the low which it had made, that seems to be supported on the downside. So the stock Once it starts trading above 415 odd levels, then the stock can rally towards 450, 455 levels.
Okay, 407 is the level where workout is currently trading. Bank Nifty is now down almost 52 points in trade. Yogesh, what's the approach now with regard to rate sensitives? You've got the RBI policy on Thursday. The expectation is of 20 bip of rate cut, but certain participants also believe after the GDP number came in at 5-year low, it could also be 50 bips. But we'll have to wait and watch on Thursday what happens with regard to monetary policy. But how does one approach the rate sensitives now?
No need for RBI policy. Yes, we also expect that 25 basis point rate cut is due for now, since the numbers are very much at the lowest end of the 5.8% in the quarterly numbers in last 5 years or so. Here on the rate sensitive front, one should again consider one more point, that whether this rate cut is being passed on to the end consumer or not. So earlier it was RBI and the Finance Ministry both were concerned about passing on of the rate cut benefits to the end consumer, which was not happening. And this time again, if it doesn't materialize to the end customer, then it will not be seen positively by the FinMin. So I would say that for rate sensitives, again on the event for Thursday, one can look at again on real estate, where the inventory is piling up and the sales is very minuscule. So there we can see some momentum building into that affordable housing as well, and partially for auto. But I would believe that it is not that auto is going down, the sales is going down only because of that reason. There is other reason of insurance and plus many other factors. So these are, real estate would be the one, and the NBFCs. These are the two sectors one can look at as rate sensitive right now.
Okay. Yogesh, stay on. Let's take in closing strategies from our experts. Rahul, I'll come to you first. We just took two ideas from you, but which are positional in nature. Anything short term from a BTST or STBT perspective? Well, maybe not tomorrow, day after, but something in that vein.
One of the stocks which come to my eyes was Yes Bank. Stock was struggling, but again back above 153 now. So keeping a stop loss at 147, I'd look at buying into Yes Bank. I think over the next 2-3 sessions, you should see this more towards 160, 162. Another one that caught my eye was Axis Bank. Here too, again, we're seeing a final kind of move towards the end. So here too, I'm looking at about 848 as a next target on the stock. I'd look at buying in with a stop loss at 812 rupees from here.
Okay. And Amar, your top closing strategy?
I would say one can go short in Z Entertainment, because if you look at this stock, the stock continues to be in a downtrend across various time frames, and currently it's trading around 345 levels. So any pullback towards 348, 350, ideally that can be a good level to short, with a stop loss of 362 and a target of 334 on the downside.
He's right now the top loser on the index, down almost 4% in trade. I just want to pull up Hero MotoCorp. Remember, the stock was up nearly 6% in yesterday's session after the monthly sales number for the month of May were better than what the street was expecting. The stock's given up majority of yesterday's gain, currently a day's low, sitting with cuts of about 3%. Rahul, if somebody was holding long positions in Hero MotoCorp, considering the stock was up in yesterday's trade, what should they do now?
You see, I think first of all, one has to look at the perspective the investor has. Right now, if you're looking at the very near term, you might see a little bit of a blip to about 2650, 2700 levels. But broadly speaking, I think this is a stock you should stay invested medium to long term. I'm fairly positive on the stock. It may not be cruise control times for the auto industry, but this is a stock which I think will move to about 3000, 3100, give it 3-4 months from now.
Okay. Well, the other interesting thing is what's happening to sugar, and Balrampur Chini in particular. Maybe even Dhampur is doing well, but Balrampur with this 5% up move is now trading at near about life highs, 164 and counting. Good going, so do watch out for this one. What has not done well is Dr. Reddy's today, and I think a query at least on YouTube that has come in is on that stock. The news flow wasn't the most negative, in fact was positive. Stock started off well, it's down about 2%. Rahul, Mohindar, Dr. Reddy's on the charts?
it's been quite a move today. I mean, if you look at the way the stock's been moving, it's quite interesting. But I still think, again, long term, these are not levels I can really recommend to go short on Dr. Reddy's. If you're really worked up, for the short term, I still would say that unless you break 25, 90 odd levels, we have good support around that level. This is a point where you should continue to accumulate. In fact, I'd kind of extend that into saying even a Cipla, if you look at these levels, these are not points I'm going to be selling short. Agreed, these don't move in tandem necessarily with the Nifty. These stocks have corrected quite a lot from the month of, the entire month of May and June. We've seen quite a correction down from about 3,000 levels. So again, at this point, I'm a buyer here, keeping that 25.90 stop on Dr. Reddy.
Okay, Yogesh, before we thank you, a quick 30-second answer if you can. Asian Paints, quality stock, crude prices dipping, should all be positive, but the stock is down 2.5% today.
I would say that they have initiated a price cut for volume growth. That is the biggest concern for Asian Paints. So after a long time, they have adopted this strategy. However, on the valuation front, on the ROE, ROC basis is very good. But on the PE wise, it is little expensive. So conservative investor can buy. But in this kind of market where few handful stock have done very well, but rest of the sector opportunity lies very good again instead of Asian Paints. So that could have given a trigger rally of switching from portfolio to Asian Paints to something else.
Okay, Yogesh, we'll leave it at that note. Appreciate you joining us today and taking us through your views on markets as well as individual sectors. Amar, the cement stocks have been weak. India Cements, Ambuja, ACC, Shree Cement, you name it, and all of them have seen cuts of between 3 to 5% in trade. Is there any one stock that you would pick up to create a short position on?
I would say that looking at the cement stocks, we've seen some profit booking coming into the stock, but I would say that because it has corrected significantly, so these are close to the support levels. If I'm looking at the ACC right now, so ACC has got very strong support coming around 1640, 1650. Currently it's around 1660. So I wouldn't go short at these levels in cement stocks right now.
Okay, gentlemen, stay on. We'll take in closing thoughts from you in just bits from now. But here's how the markets are shutting shop. The Nifty 50 down about 0.5%, Sensex about 1/3%, and the Nifty Bank is lying flat in trade. What about the mid caps and the small caps? Should come up on your screen. The indices marginally in the red, but nothing too dramatic. But the market breadth slightly iffy today. Navneet will speak about that. Let me talk about the large caps and what the indices or the index movers have done in the session today. So first up, Yes Bank 2.5% higher. Rahul was speaking about that. Bharti Infra 2.5%, NTPC about 1.5%. Then Axis Bank, maybe a few people would be surprised with the move, but up 1.5%, no complaints. Maruti gains another 1% in trade today. RC Bhargav's comments really working like a charm. Bajaj Finance, expensive stock, moving up even more. What's not done well? Well, Hero corrects after yesterday's move. Z, another 3.5% down. OMCs and Asian Paints, I think the crude beneficiaries slightly soft in the session today. And somewhere down there, IT's not looked strong. So TCS and Infosys too looking slightly wobbly in the session today. But Navneet, what about the broader end of the spectrum?
Well, Neeraj, the market breadth should not look encouraging at all. In fact, we started on a positive note where broader markets were outperforming, but we gave up all the gains towards the end. Let me highlight individual movers for you. Tata Global Beverages, the stock saw some buying momentum in today's trade. In fact, the stock was only building up the gains. Some long positions were also seen on the futures side. It's finally closing with gains of about 3 to 3.5%. And Manappuram Finance, which we've been talking about, the stock's trading around its all-time high levels. What an outperformer, up 50%. The numbers for fourth quarter look pretty good. AUM growth picked up in the last quarter, and the stock up about 3 to 3.5%. And significant amount of long positions on the futures side was seen for this stock as well. ITBI was the other one where right from the word go in the morning, there were gains seen, and the stock's also closing with those gains of about closer to 8%. VGA touched its 52-week high in today's trade. Some buying momentum seen here. Stock finally closing with gains of 3%, though off the day's high. The tire makers saw some buying momentum, so something like C8 and also MRF, both the stocks saw some bit of gain. C8 closing with gains of 2.5%, and MRF also saw some buying interest. That stock was up about 2% in trade. Mass Financial, which Neeraj discussed towards the end of the show, some Serious buying was seen in the last half an hour of trade. The stocks closing with gains of about 10%. And United Spirits, that stock saw buying momentum in today's trade. The stock finally closing with gains of about 2 to 2.5% around the levels of 570. On the losing side, Page Industries, which was one of the gainers in yesterday's session, gave up its gains and closing around the day's low mark with cuts of about 5%. The cement companies came under pressure after news that the prices have been cut in the southern region. So stocks like Shree Cement, Ambuja, also India Cement is the one which has exposure in the southern region, but Shree Cement and Ambuja also corrected with that. Cuts was seen in the range of about 4 to 5%. Just Style snapped its 4-day gains. Remember, the stock was up about 32% in the month of May, and today it saw some profit booking, with the markets also witnessing profit booking, 5% lower for this one. And the other one was Jubilant Life Sciences. The stock touched its 52-week low in today's trade, finally closing around the day's low mark with cuts of about 6%. So net-net, today was largely a day of profit booking. I think the key takeaway would be that Nifty managed to close above that mark of 12,000. We did not breach that mark even once in trade today. So these are the final closing rates for you. Nifty closing around the range of 12,036, and Bank Nifty, this is going to be in focus day after tomorrow because you've got the RBI policy meet. Let's just pull up the Nifty contributors list, which will actually tell you which were the stocks which capped the moves on the upside today. So dominated by the ID pack, and both of them are your heavyweights, TCS, Infosys. They dragged the index lower by almost 18 to 19 points. Leadership has always come in from Reliance Industries, and that stock also succumbed to some bit of selling pressure. On the gaining side, surprisingly, despite the Fitch downgrade, you had Axis Bank, which gained, and L&T and ITC. These two were the underperformers when the market was actually moving up. So some bit of movement seen in these two stocks. NTPC was the other one which was up in today's trade. The market breadth, the broader markets actually have been underperforming, though Nifty could be trading around its life high levels. But broader markets today, though they started on a positive note, it was in favor of the advances. But towards the second half of the session, you did see selling pressure picking up, and finally that gap widened towards the end, and clearly in favor of the advances is what you saw when it came to the entire listed universe of National Stock Exchange. Finally, I just want to pull up the participation and see how the turnover panned out in today's trade. The NSE cash turnover is hovering just about the same level. Yesterday was 33,000. Today it's 31,300 nearly. And NSE F&O par for the course, above the average. This is the level that we've been witnessing in the last 2 to 3 sessions. So slightly higher than yesterday. 9.5 lakh crore is the participation in the NSE F&O space. Well, on that note, let's get going and get you some closing thoughts from our technical experts. Amar, let me come to you first. How should one approach trade on Thursday morning? It's a crucial day. You've got the RBI monetary meet, and today was the day there was some profit booking, but finally, index is closed above the mark of 12,000.
Yeah, I would say that overall the markets are preparing for Thursday. And technically, if you look at it, we are seeing some last 2 days, we are seeing some consolidation. So primarily the markets are anticipating that there could be something in store on Thursday, and markets are preparing for that. But I would say that the trend still remains extremely positive for both Nifty and Bank Nifty. So any significant dip should be used as a buying opportunity until unless we don't see a rate cut which the markets have factored in. So we'll have to watch out for that. As far as Nifty is concerned, on the downside, 11,950, 960, that's an immediate level of support. On the upside, it's 12,100 level. So that's the range, short range, which Nifty is likely to trade into. A breach of the same would decide the next leg of up move.
Okay, well, largely the talk is that the 25th bip rate cut has been priced in, and that was the reason precisely why markets went higher on the day when there were so many negative cues coming in from the global markets. Rahul, how would your approach be on Thursday morning? What are the key levels that you would be watching out on the index?
I think from an index perspective, we are fairly clear that we should be on track for the next target, which I was mentioning is about 12,140 odd. So we should be moving up. That's my hunch. The next 100, 150 points does look like on the upside much more. One has to be very stock specific, and I think it's a market which is rewarding those who are looking at the right stocks. And I gave you some ideas: Edelweiss, Coal India, Yes Bank. These are all stocks on my buy list. I continue to like stocks like Axis Bank. So it looks like a lot of the banking names could have some action. So that's the sector I'd really be watching for over the next 2-3 sessions. What I'd avoid, as I was mentioning again, FMCG, I'm a bit worried looking at Unilever, I'm looking at ITC, looking at Tata Motors, DLF. I'm a little worried with a lot of these stocks. So definitely one would be looking at the buy side within the banking space if I had to select one.
Okay, gentlemen, we'll leave it at that note. Rahul as well as Amar, appreciate both of you joining us today and taking us through your technical view on the markets. Well, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Countdown. But before we wrap up this conversation, do listen in as to why Nandan Nilekani is not rattled by Trump's latest trade salvo, which is aimed at India.
India can grow digital payments by 10 times in 3 years. Today it's about 22 transactions per capita. We think it can go to 220. And we've identified a number of things on how to make acceptance networks more ubiquitous, how to make dispute resolution more online. We have come up with a lot of recommendations, and I think if we put all these recommendations together, it can make a big difference and see a 10x increase in digital payments within 3 years in India.
Bloomberg is reporting that President Trump ended benefits that allowed India to export about 2,000 products to the U.S. duty-free. These were benefits that the U.S. offered voluntarily. They were not mandated by any global trade pact. How worrisome is a development like this?
Well, I think, today we are in a world where we do have these kind of things. But I think by and large, I'm very, very bullish on Indo-U.S. trade. I think there's a lot of things we do in the U.S., which is good for the U.S. There's a lot of, India is a big market for U.S. companies, whether it's planes or software. So I think there's a lot of two-way trade possible. So I'm overall very optimistic about the future of Indo-U.S. trade.
Okay, although it might be a bit rocky getting there.
No, there may be a few perturbations here and there, but I think fundamentally it's on a good wicket.
If I recall correctly, Infosys relies on the U.S. for about 60% of its revenue. Does something like this, worsening trade ties, impact you directly in any way?
Not really, because I think we have moved very well. Today, we are hiring 10,000 people in the U.S. We are setting up 6 innovation hubs across the country. We're getting a terrific response from local government, governors, and even from the federal administration. So I think the fact that we are working on creating jobs here, hiring young people, giving them jobs, training them, that's working very well. And I think we're getting a great reputation for job creation in the U.S.
Do you feel like you have an open line to the government when it comes to making sure that visas are still a two-way street and it's possible to bring talent over?
Well, I think that's an ongoing conversation. But overall, I think the fact that we are doing so many things here is working in our favor.
All right. Well, investors are increasingly pricing in a more gloomy economic picture, a slowdown, perhaps even a recession, as many people are saying in the markets. What does that mean for spending on IT services, your world?
Well, I think one of the things is that the spending on IT has now become fundamental because many of the large firms are facing an existential issue of how do they reinvent themselves in this era of digital disruption. So even as they faced business challenges, they have to continue to spend to reimagine their business, use new technology, take money from their old system, bring it to the new. So we find that while there is an overall economic sort of cloud, I think we find that the IT spending, at least in the kind of work we do, continues to be unabated.
Now, I want to get your thoughts as well on the U.S. Increasing regulatory oversight on big technology companies. We've been hearing about how Facebook, Google, Apple, perhaps even Amazon are all caught up in this. And we've already seen Europe tighten its grip on this industry. Will this reshape the landscape for big tech companies, not just U.S. companies, but overall?
Well, I think it's very early days yet, and I think we don't know where exactly this is going to go. But it is true that there seems to be more interest in these issues. But I think it's very early to comment on where it will go.
Is being big a good thing or a bad thing in this day and age?
No, I think being big is important, and I think being big gets scale benefits. We have platforms that have billions of users. So I think it's important to have scale, but at the same time, people may be interested in some of these issues.
All right, let's talk a little bit about Prime Minister Narendra Modi's victory. Last month saw a landslide victory for the Prime Minister. How do you see Modi using his strong mandate?
Well, I think I do hope that it will be used for economic reforms. India is well placed, but it has to do a number of economic reforms, like simplifying labor laws, getting the banking sector back on track, creating jobs. So a lot of big things to be dealt with.
And I'm hopeful that with this majority and a clear mandate, they will do that.
What kind of timeline do they have to work with on that?
Oh, I think reforms have to be done very quickly. All governments have to do reform in the first few weeks and months of their tenure.